All right, this is my mono green Viven Reid list. It's actually kind of a super friends list. This Viven Reid reads, her plus one is look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can pick a creature or a land, put it in your hand, put the rest of your lot in the bottom of your library in a random order. Her -3 is broken wings. It pops target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. And her -8 is you gain an emblem where creatures you control get 2 attack, 2 defense, vigilance, trample, and indestructible. This card's sweet because her alt pretty much wins you the game. Like I said, this is a Super Friends list because doubling season came out, so we decided to play it. And that's like one of my favorite cards of all time, Viven Reid, old school Viven Reid. She's a very fair and modest magic card. So, because she really honestly is. This list is actually quite powerful because it is green. So here we go. Got Blizzard Brawl. Choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. If you control 3 or more snow permanents, that creature gains 1 attack and gains indestructible. And then until end of turn, and then those creatures fight each other. It gains that until end of turn. So this card's unfair. It's absurd. This is like probably one of the best removals in like the entirety of Magic. If you satisfy that condition, you're pushing a lot of damage their way by that extra 1 attack. And you got an indestructible guy coming in, swinging in. Trust me, it's a very good card once you satisfy that condition. Bushwhack's kind of the same. You can dig out a basic land orc. You can cause 2 creatures to fight each other. Pelt Collector is a 1/1. Whenever a creature with greater power than him enters play, he gets a 1/1 counter. Whenever a creature with greater power perishes, he gets a 1/1 counter. And then when he has 3 or more 1/1 counters, he has Trample. Prey Upon just causes 2 creatures to fight each other. Tail Swipe's the same way. Choose a creature you control, don't control, they fight each other. It gets 1/1 until end of turn if you cast it during your main phase or whatever. Thirsting Roots. You can search your library for a basic land card, put it into your hand, then shuffle, or you proliferate, which means you add counters. If you have counters on things, you can add another one of those counters. It includes yourself as a player too, so you line up the shot. This card's sweet. It either draws you a card, makes the card plummet, which plummet is pop target creature with flying, or it makes naturalize, which pops an artifact or enchantment. This card's pretty sweet. Honestly, it's so modal. And then the last part, it can draw you a card for 1 mana. So you line up the shot is it's really modal. It's really different in this arena. So Trox's Fall is great. It pops target creature with flying, artifact, battle, or enchantment. This card just hits a lot of stuff. It is a sorcery, but it's 2 mana and it hits a lot of stuff, so it's really good. Bayou Groff is a 5/4 for 2, but you either pay an additional 3 mana for it or you sacrifice a creature. So you got to sacrifice a creature if you want a 2 mana 5/4. He's just big. If you can satisfy the sacrifice thing, he's huge. And he doesn't have any further downsides other than that. So that's actually pretty good. Bite Down. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to planeswalker or creature. Excellent card. Canker Bloom. You can sacrifice it, choose 1. Pop artifact, pop an enchantment, or proliferate. Pop Copper Longlegs has reach, and you can sacrifice it to proliferate. Cosmic Hunger is Bite Down, except it also can hit battles. So, Devouring Tendrils is a sorcery. It's Bite Down, except when the permanent leaves, you gain 2 life. But it's a sorcery, and you gain 2 life. So it's that's its upside. It gains you a little bit of life. But it is a sorcery, so keep that in mind. When I say Bite Down effects, it's the target creature deals damage equal to its power to target. So when I say those bite effects, I'm going to just start calling these bite effects. Inscription of Abundance has kicker. You can put 2 1/1 counters on a target creature, gain life equal to a target creature's power, or have 2 creatures fight each other. If you kick it, you choose all 3 modes instead for 5 mana, which this card is just a boatload of value. I mean, that's a lot of value for 5 mana once you kick it, or even if for 2 mana, it's still good. Invasion of Ixalan. When that enters play, you look at the top 5 cards of your library. You can grab a creature or a land, put it into your hand, and then when you win the battle, it becomes Belligerent Regisaur, has trample, and then whenever you cast a spell, Belligerent Regisaur gains trample or indestructible until end of turn, and it has trample. So this card is just like a big bully, can kind of constantly swing in every turn, and Just kind of bruise up your opponent pretty effectively. So, an Invasion of Ixalan is just a good card. A lot of the battles are, because they work as like kind of like sorcery or instant speed spells, and then a creature too. So that's what makes a lot of them good. Crawl Harpooner has reach and undergrowth. Undergrowth, you count the amount of creatures in your graveyard, and he gains that much attack, and then he fights a flyer. So usually he ends up perishing because he's only got 2 defense, but he can fight flyers. Master Rebuke is bite down. They're literally the exact same card, just a different name. Nissa's Triumph, you can search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, basic forests, excuse me, and put them into your hand. If you have a Nissa Planeswalker, you can instead grab 3 lands and put them in your hand. Pollenbright Druid has enters battlefield. You choose one. You put a 1/1 counter on target creature, or you proliferate. Prize Fight is a fight effect, except it gives you a treasure token at the end of it. Smell Fear is a fight effect, except it proliferates at the end of it. Adaptive Swordslinger, you choose one. Target creature gains 2/2 and gains vigilance until end of turn, or you proliferate. Animus Might costs 2 less if you target a legendary creature. It's the bite effect, except it deals double damage. It does double its power. Oran Reef Ooze is a 2/2. When it enters play, it can give a creature a 1/1 counter. Then whenever he swings, you add a 1/1 counter to things that already have a 1/1 counter on them. So when he attacks, that you do that. So if he's got a 1/1 counter and then he's got like somebody on the side of him with a 1/1 counter, they both gain an additional 1/1 counter every time he attacks. So Bouncer's Beatdown is a bite. It's the bite down effect, except it costs 2 less if it targets a black permanent. And when you remove that permanent, it gets exiled instead. Carnivorous Canopy pops target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. If that permanent's value is 3 or less, you proliferate. So it's just better bite, or it's just a little bit better broken wings, but it is a sorcery. Charges Forever Beast is a bite effect, except you can reveal the creature from your hand and have it deal damage equal to. That's what I like about this card, is you don't have to have something on the board for it. Contagious Vorak. This card is actually really sweet. I love this card. When you play him, you look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can grab a land and put it in your hand. If you don't grab a land, you can proliferate. Evolution Sage reads, whenever you play a land, you proliferate. You can proliferate. Actually, I think it's a must. Yeah, it's a must. Fight Rigging. At the beginning of your turn, you put a 1/1 counter on something, and when it comes into play, you hide away 5. So you look at the top 5, tuck a card underneath it. Then if you have a creature with 7 or more power in play, you play the hidden away card for free. It's a play effect, so you can play lands. Mage Duel is it's a fight effect, except it costs 2 less if you cast another spell before it, instant or sorcery before it, during that turn. Fight effect means they deal damage equal to each other, and fight effects can only target creatures too. So that just clears that up. Savage Stomp, it costs 2 less if you target a dinosaur. Put a 1/1 counter on it, and then it fights. Tandem Takedown, you pick 2 of your guys. They both gain 1 attack, and then they bite whatever their target is. Target creature or planeswalker, or battle. This one targets battles too, because it's from the battle set, so... Again, helping you win battles is good. Tandem Takedown is good too, because it does include 2 creatures. It's a bit hard to cast at 2 green, but it's not too bad. Topirator Stomper is 3 mana. It's 2 green and 1 white, or 1 colorless. It has vigilance, and then when it enters play, you dig up a basic land and put it into play tapped and shuffle your library, and it can't attack or block unless you have 7 lands. Vara's Silver Moon Ranger has reach Ward 1. When a creature or planeswalker enters the battlefield, you venture into the dungeon. That only triggers once per turn. The dungeon is a mechanic where you pick what dungeon you're going through, and as you're going through the dungeon, you do what it says on the dungeon. Like, for instance, you went through the first dungeon, you go like the first room, second room, third room, fourth room. You got to go in order. Vivian, Champion of the Wilds. This card is pretty sweet. You can cast creatures as though that you had flash. Her +1 gives something vigilance at reach until end of turn. And her -2 is you look at the top 3 cards of your library, you exile one of them, and for as long as it's a creature, you can cast it whenever you want to. Wayward Swordtooth has Ascend. You may play an additional land on it, and during each of your turns, because you can normally only play 1. With him out, you can play 2. And then he can't attack or block unless you have City's Blessing. A lot like Topirary Stomper, except he's a little bit easier to satisfy. He doesn't have Vigilance, but I'd say this card's ultimately the better card still. The thing with Topirary Stomper, though, is he digs out the land from your library, so you're guaranteed to ramp with them. So they're both good in their own right, though. Like, this guy's good because he has a lot more staying power, and in the long run, he's better. If you're, like, drawing a bunch of lands, him allowing you to play additional lands per turn is nice. Ellie Tumberwick, her +1 is Venture into Dungeon. Her -2 is, like, you can grab a creature from, like, among the top 4 cards of your library, and then if it's a legendary, you gain, like, 3 life. And her -6 is all your creatures gain 2/2 and haste for each completed dungeon that you've done. So once you complete a dungeon with her, that's when you should alt. You have to complete a dungeon first, otherwise it doesn't do anything. She's just here because it's a planeswalker. Bloomhawk, whenever he enters battlefield, he proliferates. He's just a 4/4. Hunter's Mark is the bite effect, except if it targets a blue, it can't be countered, and it costs 3 less if it targets a blue permanent. Questing Beast has Vigilance, Death Touch, Haste. Can't be blocked by power 2 or less, so the Bulldoze effect. And then whenever he deals damage to a player, he deals that much damage to a planeswalker as well. So if he dealt 4 damage to a player, he deals 4 damage to a planeswalker. This guy's good. He just helps you deal with extra planeswalkers. Can kind of keep the planeswalkers down low on the board. He has legendary, so you can play him as a commander. He is a pretty good commander. Venomous Brutalizer has Toxic 3. Then when he enters the battlefield, you may pay 2, 1 green and 1. And if you do, you proliferate. We play him because he's got Toxic. And he's a pretty solid 4/4. I mean, his Toxic 3, that's nothing to scoff at. Toxic 3 means whenever he deals damage to a player, he puts 3 poison counters on him. And when they have 10 poison counters, a player automatically loses. Vivian Arkbolt Ranger, her +1, you can distribute 1 or 2 1/1 counters amongst 1 or 2 creatures, and then they both gain trample, or one of them gains trample. Her -3 is a bite effect. And then her -5 is irrelevant because you can't use it in Brawl. Doubling Season, when it's down, whenever you would put counters on stuff, you put twice as many instead. So but Doubling Season's general, so it's any sort of counters. If you put like twice as many planeswalker or loyalty counters on a planeswalker, well, that's what they're called, you put twice as many. So if you have Doubling Season down, typically you can play Doubling Season, and then when you play a planeswalker, you can alt it right away. It's typically what the Doubling Season is for. That's why this is a mono green Super Friends list. But that's all that Doubling Season does. Whenever you'd put counters on stuff, you put double instead. So even like 1/1 counters and stuff. Nisu shakes people's hand at Walmart. Whenever you tap for a green source, you tap it for an additional green, or a forest rather. Excuse me. Her +1 turns a forest or any land you have into a 3/3 with Vigilance, and it permanently stays a creature, so be careful of that. Her -8 is you can play every single forest from your deck, and all your lands gain indestructible. You get an emblem that all your lands gain indestructible. It's an emblem, so even future lands in your hand gain indestructible. Vivian Monster's Advocate. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can play creatures from the top of your library. Her +1 is you can make a 3/3 beast, and you can either give it a haste or a vigilance, trample, or reach counter. So it has one of those keywords. And then her -2 is whenever you play a creature with whatever mana value it is, you dig out a creature with lesser mana value from your deck and you play it for free. Ren and 7, her +1 is you look at the top 4 cards of your library, put all lands into your hand and put the rest into your graveyard. Her 0 is you can play every single land in your hand for free. Her -3 makes a tree folk that's as big as the amount of lands that you have. And her -8 is you pick up your graveyard and basically place it into your hand. And then you get an emblem where you have no maximum hand size. Kogla Titanate, when he enters the battlefield, he fights a creature. And then whenever he swings, he can pop an artifact or enchantment. And you can pay 2, 1, and 1 green. And you can rescue a human. You can bounce the human back to your hand, and he gains indestructible. So you'll see this card in a lot of green lists. He's just good. Honestly, he's really, really good. He's one of the best like green creatures that we've had in a while. Viven on the Hunt. This card's not really that good. Her +2 is you can sacrifice a creature and then you tutor up a creature with a mana value one or greater, or 1+ greater or the same or lower. So it like basically swaps out creatures. Her +1 is mill 5 cards and you put all creatures you find that way into your hand, and then she can make a 4/4. She's not really that great. Nissa Animated Animus. This is Craterhoof Nissa. Her +1 is she makes a Phyrexian Horror token equal to the number of loyalty counters she has. That's its stats. And then her -1 pops target artifact or enchantment. Her -7 is you count the amount of forest you have. All your creatures gain XX and trample, where X is the amount of forest you have. So that basically wins you the game in a lot of mono green lists, because typically you're going to have at least 5 forest out. So everything's going to get 5/5 bigger. You got about 3 creatures out. That's probably going to win you the game in one swing. Definitely take out any player in Brawl. In Commander, you'll most likely just blow somebody up. Just get one person out of the game. So, this card's good. This card's insanely good. I would definitely consider her possibly as like the commander in this list. Play her with Doubling Season out, make just big dumb tokens. Planewide Celebration, you choose 4. You can choose the modes more than once. Create a 2/2 citizen that's all colors. Return target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Proliferate or gain 4 life. So remember, you choose 4 of those. Thorn Mammoth has trample, and then whenever he enters the battlefield or another creature enters the battlefield in your control, he can go fight other creatures that your opponent can control. Same with Convergence. Creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control, and at the end of your turn, during your end step, you make a 5/5 green worm creature token with no keywords. This card's just sweet. It shuts off flyers. It's cool, and it just keeps puking you out creatures, which is really nice. Great Henge, you've seen this in like every single green list. Costs 1 less for like, it can cost less depending on like the power of a creature. If you have a 6 attack creature out, it costs only 3 mana. Taps for 2 greens and you gain 2 life. And then whenever a non-token creature enters battlefield under your control, you put a 1/1 counter on it and draw a card. The Tarask has haste and ward 10 as long as it was cast. And then whenever he attacks, he can fight a creature that a target player controls or an opponent controls. Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, when you cast him, you exile 2 target permanents, has indestructible, and then when he swings, you exile the top 20 cards of the defending player's library. Invasion of Ikoria, it's an X spell, so depending on what you put into X, you can grab a creature from your deck and place it onto the battlefield depending on what X is, and then it switches into Zathora, Apex of Ikoria, has reach. And then each non-human creature you control, when it swings, it can deal its damage as though it weren't blocked. So that kind of win you the game on the spot. You swing with like, 40, 50 power worth of creatures, and then it's like, oh, hey, those are all not blocked. So you just win. Voracious Hydra is a 0/1 with trample. When it enters the battlefield, you choose 1. Either it fights a creature or you double the amount of 1/1 counters on it. So like, say for instance, you played it for 4 mana, it'd be a 2/3. You could use its second effect and make it a 4/5 instead. This card's good. It's good when you can put a lot of mana into it. Then it just becomes huge. All right, this one's a win. This is flipped. This is up against Muldrotha the Gravetide with our mono green list. So let's go. Waiting on our opponent. A little bit of color saturation, and I flipped the page. Waiting on our opponent. Put one back because they mulligan twice. Remember, in Brawl, you get a free mulligan. Plays a land tapped. Make the Cookie Monster come out. Rawr. So there you go. Waiting on our opponent. Try and figure out what's what. Play a green source. Play a dude. Our Canker Bloom. Remember, you can sacrifice him. He can pop artifacts, enchantments, or he can proliferate. He's just a really good card. Canker Bloom is something you should be playing a lot more often because he has a 3/2 for too. He's just that card's really, really good. Honestly. Okay, we got it's some sort of kicker card. I remember that now. It's like a Tarmogoyf effect where, yeah, Lurgoyf, you can kick it and then it mills cards for the amount of times you kicked it, and then it counts like card super types and it gains stats for each of them. Send dude their way, they block, they both trade. Or no, they actually lose that one. They don't want to take 3 because they can just recast them later anyways. We go ahead and use Inscription of Abundance to give them 2/1/1 counters. Hit their Shieldred before our turn ends because we didn't do anything that turn. Hit them for 9. Give them 3 poison counters. Say go. They go ahead and play a Satyr Warefinder. He can grab lands. Like the top 3 grab lands and put the rest in the graveyard. Again, these type of self-mill effects are excellent in Muldrotha. That's what you want to be doing. Go ahead and play Great Henge here for 3 mana. It nets us back 2. We go ahead and play Viven Reid here. We plus her. And we grab the Tarask. We send just our Brutalizer. Hit him for 6. Wipes out that creature. Say go. Because that Satyr Warefinder is a 2/1. So it would have... the Cankerbloom and him would have traded. They play an Muldrotha. We play a land here. We could have played the Tarask, but we instead played our Tree Dude. Make a Tree Dude. Grab a land. Or attempt to grab a creature or a land. We go ahead and grab Questing Beast because we can slam him right away. Comes down, gets a counter on him, draws us a card. We end up with a land. Send both our 5/5 Questing Beast and our 6/6 Venomous Brutalizer their direction. They're really on the back foot here. That's what really kind of got them, is they're just been on the back foot the whole time. They're down to 5 life. They opt not to block, so at least they can kind of do something with Muldrotha. They're thinking here, contemplating their life choices. So Muldrotha is a really cool commander, but she isn't a commander that's just going to like win you the game by herself. There's like a factor of like, she's kind of just a 6/6 for 6, which is not really that exciting. So gotta always keep that in mind with her. They go ahead and charge at our Viven Reid. We just eat up their Muldrotha with our Tree Folk because Viven Reid's about to ultimate anyways. We throw out the good game here because we're about to win anyhow. Because she's going to ult and give all of our team trample and 2 attack and 2 defense. They say the good game. They see the writing on the wall. They quit. Good game, opponent. Thanks for playing. Alright. This is up against Chuckles. They are playing... Talion the Kindly Lord. This is a loss. He's a Dimir commander. This is Fairies. When he comes into play, you pick a number for like between 1 through 10, and if you play like creatures with that power, toughness, or like mana cost, he drains you for 2, and then he like draws a card is basically what he does. So you can pick a really common number like 2, and he can start really going off. Can play our Contagious Vorak here. Remember, he's a 3/3 that you look at the top 4 and you can either grab a land, and if you fail to grab a land or you choose not to grab a land, he proliferates. So he's been quickly becoming one of my favorite like little 3 mana green cards. Because he's just good. Honestly, he really is. Go ahead and play our Voracious Hydra here for 2. Well, we pay 4 mana for him total, but we put 2 into X. Go ahead and make him a 4/5. But yeah, our opponent plays a land. We're kind of just waiting to see what they're doing. They opt to just say go. Probably holding up some sort of removal. They can play a lot of things out of their flash speed because I think their commander has flash. And they're Demir, so they have a lot of instant speed interactions. They either have counter spells or removal spells at instant speed. We send our team their direction. Tail swipe is an instant, so tail swipe's pretty nuts. They Murderous Rider, go ahead and stab Horse our Voracious Hydra. They lose 2 life off of that. And they Infernal Grasp our Varak. Go ahead and play our Adaptive Spore Singer. It's really unfortunate we proliferate because her other effect would have given her 2 attack and 2 defense and vigilance till end of turn, but it doesn't matter. Because it's until end of turn, and then that was our main phase 2. Because you get 2 main phases. You get a main phase 1, and then battle phase, and then main phase 2. They got Talion, the Kindly Lord. He doesn't have flash, but like I said, you pick a number between 1 through 10, and then whenever like those types of numbers come down, you do something. It's like drain 2 and then draw a card. Go ahead and play him here. I missed the number that they called. I think it says it on his thing. It says 2 there, so. Yeah, because here that we would have played that card, and that is 2 mana, so that would have triggered his ability. Chuckles Commander. Yep. His ability activates. We lose 2 life and they draw a card. I haven't played Talion yet. I might play him sometime. I think I got one of them from the set. He seems pretty cool. Wouldn't mind trying him out. We go ahead and Mage Duel again because we can. Trying to remove their commander before we develop any more threats because he is a flyer. Because we have Doubling Season in hand. They Cyclonic Rift here. We have to go for Tail Swipe because they're trying to bounce our dude. Go ahead and get rid of their commander. Burn out their Cyclonic Rift, which reads returns target permanent you don't own to your opponent's hand, as long as it's non-land. If you overload it, you can board wipe your opponent, returning everything besides their lands. They recast Talion here. I think they picked 2 again. Go ahead and play Viven Reid. She comes down successfully. We play her first because she can start making us do. She doesn't really need the Doubling Season because she doesn't have an alt or nothing. She doesn't really need all the loyalty counters. It doesn't really matter with her. They go ahead and play their fairy dude. He's like a 1/3. Talion's Messenger. It's kind of like Raffine, except worse. So whenever you attack, you get to like draw discard. It's basically like it connives, is what that's called. It's basically like a worse Raffine is basically what it does. But it's easier to cast, so. And it does give counters off of lands, which Raffine does not. Go ahead and attempt to play Viven Reid here. I'm pretty sure the counterspell is here, because that's what that delay is for. Yeah, they wash her away. So for 1 mana, they counterspell her. Go ahead and just make another dude. Another dude. Dude. Reach. Give him a reach counter so he can block flyers. Say go. Because there's nothing else we can do. They're holding up priority. They have wizard class down. They can't level up it. They can only level that up as a sorcery. They kick Skyclave Relic here, getting their 1 untapped Skyclave Relic and 2 tapped Skyclave Relics. So, it's got indestructible, so it survives destroy effects. Because it's indestructible. It can be exiled, and it can be bounced, but it can't be destroyed. They go ahead and level up Wizard class, which reads, whenever you draw a card, you can put a 1/1 counter on target creature. Talion's Messenger activates. Does like the pseudo connive thing. It's better in some ways, worse than others. Because with Rafine, you can do like more than 1 creature can connive, or like you can connive more than 1 time. Because Talion's Messenger, you can only do it 1 time. So we go ahead and jam our commander because she has an opening. We go ahead and use our Broken Wings effect, get rid of their commander. Because he is getting kind of big. Sends him to the graveyard. They have enough mana to recast him again anyways, but it's worth a shot. Say go. Wizard class puts a counter on them. 1/1 counter because they drew a card for their start of their turn. They're sitting here thinking. Go ahead and drop Portal to Phyrexia. That starts slowly bringing our end, because that forces us, when it comes down, that forces us to sacrifice 3 creatures, and then they get to free cast. They get to reanimate creatures at the start of their turn from either graveyard, and they become Phyrexians in addition to their other types. That doesn't really matter. That only matters for like Phyrexian Tribal. Viven Reid gets hit hard. She's still all right though. Go ahead and play the Nissa. Like, we have the doubling season in hand, but we opt to play the Nissa here for only 5 mana, so she only comes out with 3 loyalty counters. They counterspell here. Really setting us behind because Portal Phyrexia is going to start accruing them value. We're thinking about it. We were thinking about conceding there, but we stick it out and we just keep going. Go ahead and use Vivian's +1. We go use the other Vivian's +1. Grab Evolution Sage so we can proliferate. So if we can get our main Vivian, our commander Vivian's, if we can get her ultimate off, we'd be in good shape because our guys get indestructible, so they can just block all day. And we can start like building up an army and start like winning. So, Wizard class triggers, and they put a 1/1 counter on their guys since they drew a card. They are sitting here thinking, idling, thinking about doing something. So, they play Talion here for a boatload of mana because he's been played 3 times already. This will be the 3rd time he's played. They declare whatever number they declare. I think they declare 2 again. Remember, our spider has reach because it's the spider. It's kind of the thing with spiders is more often than not, most spiders have reach in Magic. They go ahead and put their 1/1 counters on. Because the Wizard class and Talion's Messenger, again, has like that pseudo connive effect. It's kind of like a worse Rafine. They're both good in their own ways. They're not, it's not, one is not strictly better than the other. Because he can give counters even based off of lands. Rafine can't do that with connive. Because connive doesn't give counters if you pitch lands. But yeah, we're waiting, and then they say go. They have 2 mana open, so they could counterspell. Trying to find an opening where they don't. We're kind of playing Wayward Swordtooth to test if they test the waters. You got a counterspell? Yes, no, maybe so. They think about it. Have a think. Have a think. Hypnotic Sprite counterspells it because it costs mana value 3 or less, which is understandable. Go ahead and make another reach guy because we're just going to constantly keep making them because it kind of staves off their guy. We go ahead and get rid of Portal to Phyrexia here. It ends up getting rid of our commander because she runs out of loyalty. We opt not to play Resolution Sage here, or Evolution Sage here, excuse me. Wizard class triggers, puts a 1/1 counter on. They play a land, it's a Faceless Haven. They can turn that into a creature as long as they put 3 snow mana into it. They play a Midnight Clock, which once it gains enough midnight counters, it eventually pops open and then it wheels their hand, recycles their graveyard back into their deck, and then they draw 7 cards. That's what a wheel effect is. The draw part of that, the recycling the graveyard effect, is clearing the mind. They refocus. We'll call it a refocus effect. But we have to just let our Vivian go because then we at least have blockers. Because she's gone anyways. They're swinging with 3 creatures, then we only have 2 blockers, so she's gone anyways. They play a Hypnotic Sprite as a flyer. It's a 2/1. Midnight Clock gets a counter on it. Can't play Sandworm Convergence because we don't have enough mana. If we were able to play Sandworm Convergence, we probably would have been in better shape. I think they counterspell it actually later down the line because Sandworm Convergence stops flyers from attacking us entirely. So if we can get that to stick, we can pretty much win the game off of that because pretty much everything they have flies. So. All right, it's about to be the end of the game here. They play Kindred Discovery. You choose a creature type, and then whenever that creature type swings for an attack, you draw cards equal to the number of creatures that did attack with with that type. Yeah, because they draw 2 from declaring fairy, and then 1 from their messenger, and then we just say screw it, and then good game. Alright, this is up against Janky Bro. This is a win. We're up against Admiral Beckett Brass. This is a pirate commander. I think it's the old one. I can't see it too clearly. I'll tell you if it's the old one. Anyways, if it's the old one, if you connect with 3 pirates, you can steal permanents from your opponent that are non-lands. Yeah, it's the old one. Other pirates you control get 1/1, and then when you connect to whoever you attacked with 3 pirates, you can swipe permanents, non-land permanents. We go ahead and play Wayward Swordtooth here because we can play 2 lands because of his effect, allowing us to play extra lands. Go ahead and get rid of their Dire Freak Captain. Gets 1/1 for each other attacking pirate. We go ahead and fight both their pirates to their graves because we had 2 fight spells. First, our second Blizzard Brawl. First was Tail Swipe. They go ahead and play Deadeye Navigator. Has Death Touch. Card's pretty sweet. I think you can... Yeah, deal combat damage to your player if you have a City's Blessing, draw a card. Has Death Touch and Ascend. Card's pretty sweet. They're playing a lot of old pirates from the first Ixalan set. Yeah, Pit of Offerings. It's a cave. When it enters battlefield, you can exile a card and add 1 mana of any of the exile card's colors, or you add colorless. Go ahead and tap our Great Henge down just to gain a little bit of life. We got Adaptive Spore Swinger down. Or Spore Singer, excuse me. Give 2/2 and Vigilance to our Dino. And with this, we have enough to hit the city's blessing so our dinosaur can attack and do his stuff and things. Go ahead and give it Reach. Reach is the best defensive keyword there for against flyers. Otherwise, it's Vigilance. Because Vigilance means you can attack and defend. So, it's the most aggressive keyword is actually Vigilance. Trample is just like guarantees damage across, but Vigilance make sure you can attack and defend. That's the new Admiral Brass Unsinkable. When she enters battlefield, she can mill 4 cards, and then you can play pirates from your graveyard, and they become 4/4s, and they gain a finality counter. Finality counter means when they return, or when they perish, they get exiled instead. She returns them for free, too, as you just saw right there, so... I'd say ultimately she's a better card than the old Bracket Brass. Just the Bracket Brass, the first one's really cool, but ultimately she is a better card, the newer one. We fail to find, so we proliferate here. And then we go ahead and make a 3/3 with Reach. We go ahead and swing in with our 4/4 with Vigilance because Adaptive Spore Singer does have Vigilance. Attacking doesn't cause it to tap. That's what Vigilance means. So it's a very aggressive keyword because you can constantly keep swinging in and eventually chipping away at your opponent's board, especially once a guy gets big. Magmatic Galleon comes into play. Deals 5 damage to target creature an opponent controls. And that it gives like treasure tokens when you deal excess combat or you deal excess damage, even if it's a burn spell, which is a spell that does damage, or even combat. Any sort of time you deal excess damage, you get a treasure token. It only triggers once, like per turn, though. So it could be good, but it's really like fair. It's because a lot of treasure token stuff they've been making it for the past while is pretty nuts. They got their pirate back that gets 1/1 whenever other pirates attack. We're looking like we're on the back foot here, but we should be all right. We go ahead for a plane-wide celebration. Create a citizen, proliferate. We do that 3 times, 3 proliferations, make a citizen. We almost whiffed there. I'm not giving our guys counters. Then we alt Vivian, making our guys indestructible, trample, 2 attack, 2 defense, and vigilance. Give them Reach here. Smell Fear. Get rid of their good Bracket Brass, the one that keeps bringing cards back. That card's actually pretty good. Admiral Brass Unsinkable. Granted, you have to use Pirates. Pirates are a pretty decent creature type. They're relatively fair, though. We go ahead and not give them or give their guys counters. Not that it would matter. It would add the finality counters, which once you have one, it doesn't matter if you have another one. They're a counter type that you could have 1 or 100 and it wouldn't matter. They play the old Bracket Brass because they do have enough guys to kind of swing in and maybe steal something from us. That's a non-land, so we got to be careful. Magmatic Galleons, cruise it. Crew means you tap a creature with so much power or creatures. It can be multiple, and then it turns the artifact into a vehicle. But the problem with the Galleon is it's not a pirate. You'll see that here, because they do connect with 3 creatures, but they have to be 3 pirates to steal something. Yeah, because the Galleon is not a pirate, so it doesn't matter. which kind of sucks, honestly, for them. And go ahead and plus here. It's towards the end of the game. I think they just quit here. Go ahead and make a dude. Yeah, they just quit. So, good game, opponent. Well played. We got the plugs on the slow-moving Vomit Dog. And Vomit Dog says, thanks for watching. You have a wonderful day. Maybe consider looking at the plugs.